G'day Jenna and Cooper, how are we today? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is Michael here from Critters Up Close and Talia as well.
Hello everyone.
He's getting ready for today's talk. So at 10:30 today, we will be talking about a critter. Not going to tell you what that is, I'm going to leave that up to Talia. In the meantime, enjoy watching our magnificent tree frogs, Rod and Rico. So another few minutes folks, allowing people to get online. In the meantime, feel free to say hello, let us know where you're watching from. Tell us what you've been up to and if you've been outside and exploring different world of critters. And then very shortly at 10:30, Talia will be behind the camera, folks. We'll see you shortly. Starting the live off with a little bit of frog yoga, folks, so check that out. Not much longer. For those that have just joined us, please let us know. Put a comment in the comments field. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know who's watching. We can do some shout outs during the talk as well. So we've got a bit of frog cam going on at the moment, folks. Not much longer at all. Hello Cooper, how are you, superstar? Hello Lauren. Hello Charlie and Jasper from Wellard, how are we today? Not much longer and you will get to hear all about today's amazing critter. And hello my mum and dad, Gary and Diane over in Sydney. I can see your face just popped up there. One more minute folks and we will go live. We'll just hook up our mics and ready to go. For those that have just joined, please say g'day. Tell us where you're watching from. That's right, Frog Yoga. Tell us where you're watching from. Say hello. We've been getting people watching in previous talks from all around Australia, which is really, really cool.
Rod's staring down the camera.
Charlie and Jasper were excited. Look at these ones. They're watching us because they want food, as always. Look at those stomachs. Okay. G'day Jane, how are we today? Thanks for joining us. We're just going to plug our mics in and then we're ready to rock and roll, folks. So I'm going to hand you over to Talia in just a second. We're going to move away from the cam. We're not talking about frogs today. We did that one to put you totally off what we're going to cover. All right, we ready to rock and roll?
We are.
Okay.
We're done with frog cam. Say bye Rod and Rico. Look, they're waving. Look
Hello,
at that hand.
Alexander Heights.
High five.
Here we go, all right.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to our Critters Up Close live cams on Kids Around Perth's page. We love having you watch us. Like Michael has just been saying, please let us know who you are, where you're watching from. We love to give shout outs where we can. So for the next little while, I'm going to talk to you about some pretty cool critters, but I want to see if you can guess what they are, what he is. So the critter I'm going to introduce you today does not have any legs, does not have any fur. What do you think it might be, friends? I'll give you a hint. About 2 weeks ago, I did a live and we talked about some lizards. It's not a lizard. I'm not introducing you to a legless lizard today. I did a live 2 weeks ago and we talked about something called ectothermic. Look at me. I'm endothermic. That's a hint for you. Kids, can you remember what ectothermic means?
What does ectothermic mean?
Who can remember? Who do you think I'm introducing you to today?
Charlie. Charlie guesses.
Yes, what have we got, Charlie?
A snake, Talia. What do you think? Is Charlie right?
Charlie, today I'm introducing you to a worm. No, I'm totally kidding. Of course it's a snake. How cool is that? I'm actually going to introduce you to 2 snakes. First snake, come on over. Now, this one here is moving around a lot, but you can see her body. She's just making her way up her exhibit here. This lovely jungle carpet python here, her name is Maureen. Is that not the best name for a python ever? She is a non-venomous python, this one. She's quite large, and we have her in our Critters Conservation Centre in Mandurah Forum. So you'll be able to see her kicking around in her exhibit. But have a look around this exhibit. While we're here, let's have a quick chat about, see these ones here, friends, these vines, all these jungly vines. Those ones there are actually made from recycled materials because Michael and I love to recycle and we love to repurpose things. So we actually used old docking ropes for her vines and we coated them in nice cocoa peat and made them look really natural and cool. And the backdrop in here is actually made from recycled foam. Isn't that awesome? It looks like rock, but it's actually made from recycled foam. So you can see us up there. Michael always jokes that I'm the one in the photos because I'm the one who's arty and crafty apparently, so that's my job. But friends, come back over, because I'm going to introduce you to a very cool critter today. His name is Banjo. Some of you may have met him before. He is our very beautiful python that we work with. Oh, hello Banjo, come out here. Kids, can you say hello, Banjo? Say hi, Banjo. Banjo here is a non-venomous, non-dangerous southwest carpet python. These ones here, kids, they live all around this area. I mean, if you're watching from this area, we have watchers from all over Australia, but here in the southwest, these are the carpet pythons that reside here. In saying that, you get carpet pythons, like jungle carpet pythons, in other parts of Australia. Now, I want to run you through a few really cool things with Banjo and with pythons. So, if you have a close look at Banjo's face, now I know it's a bit tricky because he moves around a lot, can you see his nice big eyes? Now kids, notice those eyes do not ever close. So when our eyes dry out, we blink, don't we? Snakes do not blink. They actually cannot blink. They do not have eyelids. They have, instead of eyelids, they have what we call eye spectacles. So their eyes never close. They even sleep with their eyes open. Isn't that freaky? So these ones, when they get too big for their skin, they shed off their skin. And we're going to talk about that in a minute because I've got a really cool snake shedding to show you. But their eye spectacles actually pop off with the rest of their skin. Do you want to see it? It's kind of weird. Here we go. This one here is actually a bit big for Banjo, isn't it? Too big to be his skin. This one is from the lovely Maureen, who you were just looking at. And if you have a close look, up on the face part here, can you see those 2 dots there? They are, oh, Banjo's coming back up to say hi. They are the eye spectacles. Isn't that amazing? So kids, as snakes grow, they will shed their skins like we just talked about. They'll actually rub up against something rough and then their skin peels off, kind of like taking your sock off when you're done with it for the day. It peels off inside out. Isn't that strange? Imagine if we were like that. Imagine if instead of our skin flaking off, it peeled off all in one go and we just kind of discarded it on the street. Wouldn't that be so strange? Now, it's a little bit tricky to see in this artificial light that we have in here, but out in the sunlight, and sometimes we can see it on Maureen and her lights, but she's in a tricky spot today, we actually can see a rainbow iridescence to the snake's skin. And that, folks, is where your Aboriginal Dreamtime story comes from, of the rainbow serpent. The rainbow serpent that carved out the rivers and the streams and the aquifers underground. That is where that story comes from their beautiful iridescence. Now, if we come back in, have a look at the side of Banjo's face here. Can you see, under Banjo's eyes, along his mouth, he has these little tiny pits. He's seen the tree. Oh, he wants to climb. Those heat-sensing pits actually help pythons locate their food. But there are 2 pythons in Australia that do not have heat-sensing pits. So what does that mean, kids? If they're not hunting warm-blooded animals, what are they hunting? They are hunting...
What are they hunting, friends? Can you tell us?
What do we think? It's going back to what we were talking about in the very beginning. They are hunting other ectothermic critters. But what does that mean? What does ectothermic mean, kids? If we're endothermic, we are warm-blooded. So ectothermic must mean...
What have we got there, kids?
Cold-blooded. I know everyone's just typing away, I'm just impatient. Ectothermic means cold-blooded. So there are 2 pythons in Australia that do not have those heat-sensing pits, the Woma python and the black-headed python, and they don't need them because they're eating cold-blooded animals. So they're eating other snakes, they're eating lizards, all that delicious stuff. These ones, your other pythons, generally like to eat things like mice, they'll eat rats, bigger pythons, so things like giant amethystine pythons or scrub pythons as we commonly know them, will even eat things like wallabies because they get so big. They're pretty big animals. So kids, what they will do, if we have another look at Banjo's face here, can you see this tongue? Now this tongue is flicking at the moment, that little forked tongue, and what that is doing is that tongue is coming out of Banjo's mouth, it is collecting particles from the air, it is taking them back into Banjo's mouth, and in the roof of his mouth, up here, he has an organ called the Jacobson organ. And that one actually processes all of those particles to tell Banjo what is in the area.
Just to let you know, sometimes the comments are a little bit slow, folks, so we did get a response from Cooper's team who said Woma python and black-headed pythons, and they are cold-blooded.
All over it,
so,
of course.
For everyone watching, we've got Cooper who's watching today from home, who has been a follower of Critters Up Close for many years, who's even met Steve Baxhall from Deadly 60.
Pretty amazing.
Cool
Pretty much famous,
so,
Cooper.
So Cooper,
pretty much famous.
Be all over it.
Now, so kids, these ones here, they will use that tongue to help locate their food, whatever they're deciding to eat. When they find their food, pythons will bite their food, they will wrap their bodies around it, and they will do something called constriction. So they will actually tighten their bodies around their prey to kill their prey before they eat it. And then what they'll do is once they have suffocated their prey, I know that sounds awful, they will actually use their face and they'll poke around that food to find the best point to digest it from, and they'll start eating it. Now, we always hear people say, but snakes, they eat things that are so big, they must dislocate their jaws. It's actually not true.
Sorry, just jumping in.
You're right.
We've got a question from Charlie. He
Yes.
wants to know how old Banjo is. Now, we can obviously tell Charlie how long we've had Banjo.
Yes.
So we've had Banjo for about 4 years now, but we cannot tell Charlie, unfortunately, exactly how old Banjo is
because these ones actually grow according to what they eat, not how old they are. So like crocodiles, snakes will actually grow according to what they eat. So you can have 2 siblings that were born at the same time, and one can be like 5 or 6 times larger than the other because it's eaten so much more food.
And
so
also because
crazy.
he came to us.
Yes, now Banjo's backstory is a bit of a sad one. All of our animals have some backstories to them. Banjo, unfortunately, used to be a wild python. So someone actually took Banjo from his wild habitat here in the southwest and they kept him as a pet, which is not great, is it, friends? We don't want to take wild animals from their natural environment and keep them as pets here. It's not ideal. And because they don't know, or no one knows exactly where Banjo came from, unfortunately, he could not be returned to the wild. And that is why we love to tell Banjo's story, to stop that kind of thing from continuing to happen, because we want animals left in their environment. Snakes play a really important role in the ecosystem, believe it or not. I know most parents are a bit squeamish about snakes and cockroaches and things like that, but they're all very important. Hello? So where were we? We were talking about food. We were talking about how they eat, and we were talking about the fact that they do not dislocate their jaw. They actually have ligaments on the sides of their jaw here that are very, very stretchy. So it's a bit of a myth that they dislocate their jaw. So pretty cool. Now, I want to talk to you about something really quickly, because getting back to how the adults don't really like these ones and all that. Oh, sorry, Banjo, and that kind of thing. Kids, who can tell me, what would you do if you saw a snake outside? What are you always told to do? We're going to run through a bit of a snake safety scenario just now, because it's really important to know, especially in a country like Australia, what to do if we come across a snake in the wild. Who can tell me what we do?
So type away, folks. What do you do if you see a snake in your backyard, in a bush, at the beach, in your bedroom if it's not supposed to be there?
Your bedroom?
What would you do? Type away, kids. We'll give you a minute. In the meantime, where's Banjo?
Banjo's just slip sliding around. Now, while we're talking about that, kids, because Banjo's in a great position to also talk about this, Banjo is what we call an arboreal species of python. So we'll get terrestrial and arboreal snakes. So some terrestrial snakes and pythons live on the ground. It means they live on the ground. They're ground dwelling. Whereas arboreal means they like to live in the, what's this one? This big thing here? Trees. They like to live in the trees. So you can actually see Banjo here can hang his whole body just off his tail. So he'll wrap his tail around and use all the strength of those muscles to hold his body up. It's pretty amazing. What have we got?
Now, between Charlie and Cooper, we have the answer. So Charlie says, don't touch it and call Mum and Dad.
Perfect.
Excellent, Charlie. You're spot on. And then we add Cooper, who says, look behind you, slowly walk away looking at the snake.
Amazing.
So
you guys are superstars.
Perfect.
So kids, what we're going to do, because I know you know it, you two, but I am going to run everyone else who's watching through a really, really quick bit of snake safety. Now, if we are out in the bush, at the park, in our backyard, wherever we might be, and we're walking along and we come across a snake, we do not want to just stand still, because sometimes snakes can be quite curious creatures. So can you see how Banjo right now is not actually moving away from me? Banjo right now is moving towards my feet. He's curious. He's wondering who I am, what I'm doing here, what is going on. So kids, if we stand still, this could be the scenario that you're faced with, which we don't want. So I'm just going to slide my foot out of there. So what we need to do, it's very important, kids, turn on your listening ears for me. It's very important. If we see a snake outside and we're walking, we need to stop. We need to look behind us to make sure it's safe and we're not going to trip over a tree or fall off a cliff or anything crazy like that. We walk away slowly and we shout out, snake, snake, snake. What do we shout out, kids? Brilliant. And then we go and tell the adults. If you're at school, you can go and tell your teachers at school. That gives your teacher time to clear a safe space. At home, that gives mum, dad or carer, as Michael and I like to say, time to lock themselves inside with adult grape juice, because that's very important for the adults. But parents, if we are calling a snake relocator, something that's really important to remember is to keep an eye on the snake. Snakes are actually quite quick and they're very crafty. They'll get themselves into tight little spaces. So if you're calling a relocator, call from a mobile phone and keep an eye on the snake. Because if they come out and they can't find it, well, firstly, they're still going to charge you for coming out. And secondly, you're probably not going to sleep for weeks because you think that there's still a snake in your backyard, which could be the case. So it's not ideal. Have we had any other questions come through, Michael?
No.
Been a bit slow on the comments today?
We've got a few people watching today. There's obviously a lot of people back at school as well.
Yes, kids. You can always watch this tonight if you're watching back tonight. But if you like, folks, because we're probably at that time, we're going to wrap it up. But I'm going to talk to you about something else really quickly. Now, unfortunately, our today's Critter virtual classroom booked out, which is amazing. Unfortunate for you guys because you can't book on. But guess what? We still have spaces on next week's class. Next week's class, I believe, is aquatic critters, which is awesome. We talk about all different aquatic ecosystems. So our virtual classrooms are bookable through our website at Critters Up Close. You can find us on our Facebook page. Banjo's just hanging out. And kids, you get some of this, which is awesome. This is great for the adults and the kids. These are our Critters for Curriculum documents. So there are activity sheets in here. There's curriculum link documentation. They're really great. So we send those out when we do our virtual classrooms. So that's, pretty much it for today, guys. I'll give you one last quick look at Banjo because he's pretty spectacular here.
We've got one more quick question.
Oh, go for it.
Cooper. So how big is Banjo? So Banjo at full stretch is about 1.5 metres.
There we go.
1.5 metres. But still quite thin. You see, if this was a girl, would be a lot girthier because they're a little bit bigger to carry the eggs. Okay, but the boys are a little bit skinnier. So he doesn't look as big as he sounds, but about 1.5 metres.
Well, folks, a big, big thank you for tuning in today. You can always find us on our Facebook page. We will be back with another live next week on the Kids Around Perth page. But for now, kids, wherever you can, turn off the television, turn off the computer, not right now because you're watching the live, and head outside.
And Charlie says thank you, that was very interesting.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Cooper, for your amazing answers, as always.
Helen says great presentation.
Thank you, Helen. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you soon.